Vocabulary number 9. Here we go. Again, these are some tough words from from a nonfiction text and from a poem. So just know that it's okay if you don't get them all, but see if you can find 2, 3, 4 to start to incorporate into your writing, your speaking, and recognize them when you come across them. Accomplished might be one that you've heard before. It means done or completed. It can either be an adjective or a verb. So like adjective, like he was an accomplished person, like he had done a lot of things, or like I accomplished a lot because I had so much time, like I completed a lot. So the bill accomplished much of what the amendment would have, is how it was used in the text, more or less. I adjusted a little bit. So it did a lot of what the amendment would have. It completed a lot. So they're talking about the one about child labor, I think, and the government passed a bill, a law, that did a lot of what the amendment would have as far as making child labor illegal. Or you could say we accomplished a lot by working together. I mean, like we completed a lot. We did a lot by working together. Responsibilities should be something you are familiar with, a word you're familiar with, something that a person has to do. So they're talking about how D.C. residents, meaning people who live in Washington, D.C., have the same responsibilities as residents of other states. But they're talking about how, like, they don't have somebody in the government like the rest of us do, even though they have the same responsibilities. They have to do a lot of the same things, like pay taxes, but they don't necessarily have the same representation in government. Or you could just say he has many responsibilities around the house. One of his responsibilities is to vacuum. One of his responsibilities is to wash the dishes. Lots of examples of responsibilities. Mandatory. Mandatory means required. So in the text, it's about child labor. It's talking about how others believed school should be mandatory. So some people thought it should be up to families. Others thought it should be required or mandatory. I said certain vaccines are mandatory to go to school. Like I said the other day, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, you have to get those vaccines, while as right now the COVID-19 vaccine is not mandatory for children. For some adults it is, not all adults. Regulate. Regulate is a fancy way of saying control. You often hear it in terms of like official laws that regulate something, that control something. So some believed states should regulate child labor, meaning like the states would control it, so it could be different in Minnesota versus Wisconsin. Other people thought that the national government should regulate it or control it. The government regulates the mail system. They have a certain way that it happens. They make sure that it happens. It's like a service that they offer. They control it. So a lot of different things that they regulate. Representation. Representation is having someone to represent you, meaning like to speak for you. So if you don't go, but somebody else goes in your place, they are your representation. So a lot of people wonder, should people pay taxes without representation, like the people that live in Washington, D.C.? This was one reason why the United States wanted to become its own country, because they still had to pay taxes to England, but they didn't have anybody representing them in the government. So representing is just a verb form of representation. Representation's a noun. Ilhan Omar is our representation in Congress. For this area, she's one of our representatives. So there's senators and there's representatives because they speak for us. They represent us. We don't actually vote on the laws, but we vote for somebody who does vote on the laws. Brazen. Brazen can actually be made of brass, which is something I learned when I was looking this up. So brass is a type of metal, but usually it means bold and without shame. So Helios, the statue they're talking about in the new Colossus, was a brazen giant, is what it sort of says in the text. Again, I modify the sentences to make them shorter. It was made of bronze, so it wasn't brass, but we can assume means like, really bold, like out there. She was shocked at the brazen answer. So somebody just spoke their mind, was really bold. Yearning is a wanting or a desiring. Can either be a noun, like I felt a yearning, or it can be a verb, like I am yearning for this thing. So the people are yearning to breathe free. So they are desiring, they are wanting to be free. Or the child had a yearning to be loved. So they had that desire to be loved. And the last one is Colossus. So a colossus is anything colossal or huge in size or importance. So a Colossus used to be in Rhodes, which is a city, think in Greece. And this big statue used to be there. It has since fallen down, but then the poem is the new Colossus because they're thinking of the Statue of Liberty as the new statue, this new big statue. So the Statue of Liberty is a Colossus. It is both big, huge, colossal in size, also in importance in what it represents. So make sure you have that written down. Pick 4 to use in your exit slip. It's fine to choose any of the four you feel most comfortable with. Let me know if you need help. Good luck.